So today what we're doing is talking about the number one trade option that is listed on the fourth period's trade watch list of 2024's offseason. Now, of course, reading the title and seeing the thumbnail, you probably already have a pretty good idea as to where we're going with this video and the conversation we're going to have about this particular player. But it has been a while since we've talked about this guy, and last time we had discussed him, we didn't have this list of names available to us, so it makes things all the more interesting to acknowledge which teams could be involved here and what that actually could entail. So, today we're talking about Mitch Marner, as he is included on the fourth period's summer trade watch list, which is accurate as of July 5th, 2024. This is still active, and I get it, the most recent update was 5 days ago, but as I had said last time we had talked about him was before the 5-day threshold, so I think this is an okay update to give on this day. Let's talk about Mitch Marner, listed as the number one player on this list. He wants to stay in Toronto, David Pagnotta writes, that much is clear. But the Leafs will be taking calls from select teams, and if they feel they are receiving an offer they would accept, they'll go to Marner about waiving his no-movement clause. Marner holds all the cards, but if push comes to shove, for the right environment, we believe he will waive. Teams reportedly linked to Marner and his $10.9 million cap hit include the Vegas Golden Knights, the Nashville Predators, the Chicago Blackhawks, and the Dallas Stars. All Western Conference teams, all teams with varying degrees of success in the past season and a bit, and all teams with very different fits that Mitch Marner could have on their squads as well. These are just 4 of the teams that are talked about as being linked to Marner at the moment. Of course, this does not include all the other conversations we have had, talking about him in Boston, talking about him in Utah, talking about him and a whole bunch of other squads that have been linked around and about the past few months here. But when it comes to David Pagnotta listing Marner as their number one trade chip, and these 4 teams being the teams involved, it does get me intrigued as to what each of these situations could look like for Toronto. Now, when it comes to the price, this is, of course, the biggest thing that Maple Leafs fans would care about. If I had to choose which team out of Dallas, Nashville, Vegas, and Chicago had the most expendable assets in this situation, I think it's easy to say Chicago. I mean, they've been so bad for so long that their prospect pool has really bolstered itself up the past few years. There are a few acquisitions they had made in free agency this year that actually do look like they're going to be making the team a lot better. Tyler Bertuzzi, Teuvo Teravainen, they traded for Ilya Mikheyev. Lots good going on there in Chicago. But of course, I mean, you just traded for these guys. You just signed these guys. You're not going to go out there and trade them away right away. Unless, of course, it's like Ilya Mikheyev going over to Toronto, 50% salary retained or whatever, for Mitch Marner, and you add on a whole bunch of other prospects and stuff to make it worthwhile for the Maple Leafs. Just think about that. Ilya Mikheyev back in the Toronto organization. How crazy would that be? But either way, having Mitch Marner on a team with Connor Bedard alongside of Tyler Bertuzzi, whom he was a teammate with on Toronto, and Teuvo Teravainen, could provide for some very good offensive flexibility. I don't even need to get into detail as to how crazy a Marner and Bedard combo would be on the ice together. Imagine these two dudes running the power play. It would be like nothing even changed for Mitch Marner. Passing the puck to Austin Matthews, who can drag and snipe like nobody else on the planet. Connor Bedard is probably the second best shooter in the world at doing that kind of a thing. So Marner playing around with Bedard, I don't really think there's too much of a difference there stylistically. He could probably get a whole bunch of assists as well. But of course, would Marner waive for a team like Chicago? Would he waive for a team that could probably give him as much gosh darn money as he's going to ask for with no questions about it? Hey, Marner, you want $14 million a year? Here it is. We can give it to you because we're Chicago and we're not really paying anybody else. Or would Marner more so go for the idea that, hey, I want to go to a team that's going to win. I'd rather go to a Vegas. I'd rather go to a Dallas or a Nashville even, and stick my talent alongside of guys who are already at my level. Bedard isn't there yet. He'll get there soon, but he's not there yet. In Vegas, you've got Jack Eichel. Imagine Marner playing with that dude. In Dallas, you've got such good defensemen and guys like Miro Heiskanen, and the forward core, while it isn't as top-tier heavy as Toronto is, for example, There's a lot of depth in Dallas, and you can say there's some good potential there. And then for Nashville, I mean, wowzers. Steven Stamkos getting added over there. What else is there to say? Marchessault, too. Don't even forget about him. Marner, Stamkos, and Marchessault? That sounds like a crazy gosh darn line, man. Let's go back over to Vegas and talk about this team, though. I'd say if I were to personally place odds on who I think would be the most suitable fit for Marner out of these 4 teams, Vegas seems like the best one. They always seem to get these top-tier superstars. Anybody that is available on the market that happens to be great always goes to Vegas. Pietrangelo, Lehner, Mark Stone, Pacioretty, Noah Hannafin, too. Add on a Mitch Marner and it would fit the bill perfectly. This would be exactly what we would expect to happen, right? Vegas, though, I'd say their prospect pool, the assets they could give Toronto, it's definitely not as deep as Chicago's. Vegas is kind of teetering around because they're always trading guys away and opening up roster spots that I don't know if a Marner trade with Vegas would work out, where the Leafs actually get assets they value in return. Sure, they'll get some stuff back, but is it as much as they could get from other teams? You could say probably not. Nashville has a pretty similar situation, I would say, although the timeline of success is a lot different too. They're just on the cusp of getting good, I would say. Mostly because Nashville, in the playoff series they'd had against the Vancouver Canucks, they were really solid defensively. I would honestly put their defensive capabilities near the top of the NHL, especially in that playoff setting. They were so strong, so hardened on D. They just couldn't score any goals, and now they're going to be able to do that with Stamkos and Marchessault, maybe even with Marner on the squad as well. Barry Trotz is not pulling any punches when it comes to improving this team in the short term now, and if it costs a whole bunch of prospects, some of these lower tier guys that may not have the same ceilings as some of the top tier prospects, but there is a lot of them instead, if they give away a guy like Igor Shurin, you've got Matthew Wood from last year, Joakim Kemmel is a guy that I'm a really big fan of, not to mention Fyodor Svechkov from a few years ago. There are options here. Even on goaltending, Yaroslav Askarov is probably going to get traded because that guy is not going to have a job for as long as UC Saros is signed on this team. Spoiler alert, he's signed on for a really long time. So there is a different vibe, I would say, with Nashville because they are in that competitive window. It's just opening up here for them. And if they really wanted to stretch it as the offseason goes on, maybe a player like Mitch Marner really is what they need. Then you go over to the Dallas Stars and you talk about how they have always been hovering around there. They've been in this situation before. They're trying to get better. They're trying to get over that hump. They're trying to make the finals again. They don't have Corey Perry this time, but they've been making the third round year in and year out. It's been a pretty consistent process, I would say, for the Dallas Stars. It's just they can't get over that hump. Is Dallas, though, the team that is able to get this trade done? They're very deep, but does a Marner trade go out there and deplete how deep their roster really is? I wouldn't say the Dallas Stars have the best prospect pool, but they do have some guys that I like a lot. Logan Stankoven is an absolute monster. Wyatt Johnston recently broke out onto the scene, and for a guy who's so new, it's crazy how good he was. Jason Robertson playing with Mitch Marner sounds like a great idea as well. There are a lot of options with the Dallas Stars, especially since Matt Duchene decided to come back at such a cheap cap hit as well. There's a lot of opportunity for this squad, but is this the team that's able to get a Marner trade done? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you're a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, how do you feel about the idea of one of Vegas, Nashville, Chicago, or Dallas being the main Mitch Marner destinations? Out of these teams, which one do you think has the best package for Toronto to get in a trade? Do you like Yaroslav Askarov from Nashville? Do you like some of the prospects Chicago has? Do you like any of the depth forwards that Dallas has instead? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about this entire trade idea. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.